The first shock of awakening, spiritual awakening, is often misunderstood. People talk about it like a beautiful sunrise, a peaceful meditation, or a sudden moment of clarity. But if you have truly experienced it, you know the beginning is nothing like that. The first shock of awakening feels more like an emotional earthquake that shakes the foundation of your life. It feels like losing pieces of yourself that you thought were permanent. It feels like falling apart faster than you can put yourself back together. Most people never survive this stage because it does not feel spiritual at all. It feels chaotic, it feels frightening. It feels like everything you relied on mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is suddenly collapsing. And in many ways, that is exactly what is happening. Awakening is the destruction of illusions, and the human mind is not used to living without its illusions. During the first shock, you begin to question everything. You question your beliefs about life, love, success, purpose, relationships, and even your own identity. You look at your life and realize that many decisions you made were driven by fear, conditioning, or expectations, not by your true self. You begin to see the masks you have been wearing. You begin to notice the roles you played just to be accepted, loved, or understood. This realization is painful because it exposes how far you drifted from your authentic self. The world around you starts to look different too. Conversations feel shallow. The places you used to enjoy suddenly feel empty. The people you once admired no longer inspire you. Your soul becomes restless, searching for something deeper, something real. But at this point, you do not yet know what that something is. You only know that you can no longer pretend. You can no longer lie to yourself. You can no longer continue living the way you once did. This is the stage where fear tries to pull you back. Your ego fights hard to keep you comfortable, even if that comfort was destroying you. The old version of you does not want to die, so it will do everything it can to make you resist change. You will feel confused, lost, ungrounded, and emotionally unstable. You may even think you're going backward, not forward. But this confusion is not a mistake. It is the clearing of the old so the new can emerge. Most people cannot handle this intensity. They want awakening without discomfort. They want enlightenment without losing anything. But awakening requires sacrifice. It requires you to let go of beliefs that no longer serve you, relationships that keep you small, habits that drain your energy, and identities that were built for survival rather than truth. Those who survive the first shock understand that this chaos is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the breaking open of the soul. It is the moment when life stops being about who you were and starts becoming about who you are meant to be. The loneliness that breaks most people. After the initial shock of awakening, most people enter a phase that feels even harder to handle. It is the phase of deep, unsettling loneliness. This loneliness is not the ordinary kind where you miss someone or wish you had company. This is a spiritual loneliness, a soul-level isolation where you feel disconnected from everything you once knew. You feel like you have stepped out of your old life, but you have not yet stepped into your new one. You exist in a space in between, and that space can feel painfully empty. What makes this stage so difficult is that awakening changes your inner world long before your outer world adjusts. You begin to see life differently. You think differently. You feel differently. Your priorities shift. Your values transform. Your energy becomes more sensitive. And because of these changes, the people around you start to feel unfamiliar. You begin to notice how draining some relationships were. You begin to see how many conversations were built on complaints, gossip, ego battles, or emotional dependency. You begin to recognize how much of your life was shaped by the expectations of others rather than the truth of your soul. Suddenly, you feel disconnected from people you once felt close to. It is not because you stopped caring about them. It is because you are no longer vibrating on the same frequency. You have outgrown energies that once matched you. And this creates a painful distance that most people do not know how to handle. This loneliness often makes you question yourself. You may wonder if something is wrong with you. You may wonder why your circle is shrinking. You may wonder why people pull away, or why you feel the urge to detach from certain friendships or relationships. But this is not a sign that you are breaking. It is a sign that you are becoming. Awakening is a cleansing process. It removes people who cannot go with you into the next chapter of your life. It reveals who is aligned with your soul and who is only aligned with your old identity. But the transition hurts because the new people who truly match your awakened self have not appeared yet. So you stand alone, carrying a level of awareness that separates you from the world. This loneliness is meant to transform you. It gives you space to hear your own thoughts without interference. It allows your intuition to strengthen. It forces you to sit with yourself and learn who you are beneath all the noise. It teaches you how to be whole without needing someone else to fill your emptiness. But most people cannot survive this stage. They fear the silence. They fear the emptiness. They fear being alone with themselves. So they run back to the old world. They reconnect with people who drain them. They return to habits that numb them. They shrink their awakening just to feel accepted again. Those who survive this loneliness discover something powerful. They learn that solitude is not a void but a doorway. It is the place where your soul speaks the loudest. It is the chapter where you finally meet yourself. The internal war that most people lose. The third stage of a spiritual awakening is the most intense, the most personal, and the most difficult to survive. It is the internal war, the battle between who you used to be and who you are becoming. This war is not fought outside of you. It happens inside your mind, inside your heart, and inside the deepest parts of your soul. And most people never make it through because this stage demands brutal honesty, deep courage, and complete vulnerability. When you reach this part of the awakening, everything you once avoided finally catches up to you. The emotions you buried, the wounds you ignored, the fears you hid, the memories you locked away, all begin to rise to the surface. You can no longer outrun your pain. You can no longer distract yourself from your truth. You can no longer pretend that everything is fine. Awakening forces you to face the parts of yourself you never wanted to look at. This is where the ego fights hardest. Your ego is not evil. It is simply the part of you that fears change. It will try to protect the old identity you constructed for survival. It will whisper lies to you to keep you in the familiar. It will make you believe that growth is dangerous, that healing is impossible, and that your pain is too heavy to face. The ego wants to keep you comfortable, even if that comfort is destroying you. In this stage, you will feel torn between two worlds. One part of you knows that you must grow. It knows you must heal. It knows that this awakening is happening for your highest good. But another part of you clings tightly to the past. It wants to hold on to old habits, old patterns, old relationships, and old identities because they feel safe, even if they limit you. This tug-of-war creates emotional chaos. You may cry for reasons you cannot explain. You may feel anger you thought you were done with. You may feel sadness that has been waiting for years to be released. You may suddenly remember painful moments you had forgotten. You may question your worth, your purpose, your path, and even your sanity. This inner turmoil is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are finally healing. But healing is not gentle. Healing requires breaking open. Healing requires letting yourself feel what you avoided feeling your entire life. And most people cannot handle this level of emotional intensity. They shut down. They numb themselves. They distract themselves with work, relationships, entertainment, or anything that keeps them from facing their wounds. They choose temporary comfort over long-term transformation. Those who survive the internal war are the ones who stop running. They choose to sit with their pain. They choose to understand their fears instead of being controlled by them. They choose to acknowledge their wounds instead of hiding them. They choose to feel, even when feeling hurts. This stage is where the real transformation happens. Not in peace, not in light, but in the fire of your own truth. If you stay present, if you choose growth over fear, you will emerge from this war stronger, clearer, and more aligned with who you truly are. Part 4. The rebirth that only the brave reach. After the collapse, the loneliness, and the internal war, there comes a turning point. It does not arrive suddenly. It dawns slowly, like the first light after a long night. This stage is the rebirth, the transformation, the moment when everything begins to make sense. It is the part of the spiritual awakening most people never reach, not because it is impossible, but because very few have the courage to walk through every painful chapter that comes before it. Rebirth is not a reward, it is a result. It is what happens when you refuse to quit on yourself, when you face your shadows, when you release your old identity, and when you surrender to the truth of who you really are. In this stage, something inside you shifts. You feel lighter, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you finally stopped carrying the weight that never belonged to you. You begin to feel a new kind of clarity. You understand why certain people left your life. You understand why situations fell apart. You understand why the version of you that existed before had to dissolve. The confusion that once made you feel lost now transforms into awareness. Start seeing patterns. You start understanding lessons. You start connecting dots you never noticed before. Everything that once felt like punishment now reveals itself as preparation. This stage brings a peace that is not dependent on outside circumstances. It comes from within you. It is a peace built from self-awareness, acceptance, inner strength, and emotional maturity. You no longer explode over small things. You no longer chase validation. You no longer attach your happiness to people or outcomes. For the first time, you feel anchored in your own soul. Rebirth also brings a new level of confidence, but not the loud external confidence the world celebrates. It is quiet. It is steady. It is the confidence that comes from knowing who you are and who you are not. It comes from trusting your intuition, listening to your inner voice, and walking in alignment with your truth. You no longer fear losing people because you understand that anyone who leaves creates space for someone more aligned to enter. You no longer fear change because you have lived through transformation and survived. At this stage, your energy shifts. People feel it. Some are drawn to you because your presence feels grounding. Others are intimidated because they cannot control or manipulate you anymore. You no longer react out of insecurity or pain. You respond from wisdom. You move with intention. You protect your peace because you finally understand its value. Very few people reach this chapter because rebirth requires everything you once held onto to fall away. It requires losing the old version of yourself, the one that lived in fear, in doubt, in confusion, in people-pleasing, or in emotional survival mode. But if you make it here, you are no longer the same person. You have outgrown the past, you have evolved, you have risen. Rebirth is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a life lived from truth instead of fear. It is the moment when you realize that everything you went through was shaping you into the person you were always meant to become.